Hello everyone, Seraphin here, welcome back for more Castlevania Aria of Sorrow. When I last left you guys, we were dealing with the very annoying reality that ectoplasm is not something that I'm ever going to have, apparently. Because I continue to be murdering these things over and over again, and they will not drop their soul no matter what I try to do, so... this is, I guess this is an example of one of those things that prevents me from doing these 100% runs every time I play this game, just because there's always a few that just are going to be, just are so stubborn in their refusal to behave and cooperate and give me what I want from them that it's almost not even, oh my god, these things are worse too. And you'll see the reason why you're hearing that, like, chinking noise there when I walk over that potion is because I already have 9 of them and I can't carry any more than 9 of a single item. And that's an uncursed potion, by the way. And then those generally drop from things that curse you. So the Cagnazzo, I think, dropped a couple of them. Obviously, the Ectoplasm's dropping them a lot. That's all they do is curse you. That's their thing. But at any rate, so I talked quite a bit last time about a lot of real talk stuff. And I'm not going to make that a habit. I know I've said that a few times, and I end up going back to it anyway, invariably, but it's something that I feel needs to be said, and I generally don't have... I guess I still really don't. I mean, not that I don't appreciate you guys listening and watching this, but I don't generally have a means of, I guess, getting those feelings and thoughts out. I don't... Oh my god, finally, there it is. Oh, it only took... what, 15 minutes? Good lord. Alright, anyway, moving on. I don't generally have a means of venting those kinds of frustrations that I have with regards to people who just don't understand the mind of a gamer, the mind of somebody who, you know, likes to have time to do things creatively but doesn't, and has to try to make do where they can to get that particular muscle stretched, I guess, is what I'm trying to think here. It's your creativity is just as much a part of your, or something that needs to be nourished and used as much as any other, like, real muscle. Like, if you don't use your legs for a long time, then you have a hard time walking. If you don't do something creative for a long time, then you have a hard time doing it anymore in the future. And that's something that I certainly wish to avoid for as long as humanly possible. I don't know how long I'll be around on this earth for, but as long as I'm on it, I want to be doing something creative, something that I can call my own, something that will be around after I'm gone. And I guess that's a common thought. I like to think it is, at any rate. What do people think about their legacy quite a bit more than most things? And why shouldn't you? Your legacy is an important part of you because it's the only thing that's going to live longer than you. And I'm not one of those people that thinks a whole lot about what's going to happen to me after I'm gone, but it's also something that, how do I say this? I don't want to just be another nameless statistic, you know what I mean? Like, I can't guarantee that anybody's going to come looking for my YouTube videos 50 plus years from now. I sincerely doubt it. Assuming YouTube's even a thing in 50 years. Who knows? It's certainly shown us no sign of stopping now, but we all know how quickly technology changes. At least I certainly do. Being a member of this community in this career field. But it's something. It's something that I have that will persist regardless. Unless someone decides to just delete it off the internet. But you know what? That's the risk you take, I guess. We have Minotaur already, don't we? Yeah, we do. We have Quetzalcoatl, too. In fact, there's not really a whole lot in this wing of the castle that I need to worry about grabbing right now. There is something below here that I don't have yet. That is a former boss soul that I was not able to collect. That being the Creaking Skull, which I'll probably go down and grab in just a minute here. But I'm going to head up to the top and grab those items that I couldn't get to, because I wasn't able to turn myself into a tiny little bat before. And I think it should just be right up here. Let's get all this stuff out of my way. Waiter skeleton that I almost didn't see. Yep, there we are. This is the mana prism. Yep, there we go. And that clears up that area of my map. keep forgetting I had the ability to slide around and backdash and jump in the air like this and all that fun junk. I don't use a lot of those abilities all that often, and that sounds weird, but I know I got that fun little thing over there already. That was the Sherman ring, if I'm not mistaken, that secret area on the ceiling. So we'll head back down here and go toward the bottom where Creaking Skull is. Yeah, I'm just gonna go this way. And as far as I know, Creaking Skull is the only thing down that way that I need still in this area. And then we can move back to... we're going to go to the Floating Gardens next. And go through the main castle corridor, because there's still a couple of things in the main castle corridor that I don't have yet. I don't have the Peeping Eye, I don't have the Blue Crow, I don't have the Siren. I think that's it for the main castle corridor. Everything else is in different areas. Here's Creaking Skull, and you'll see he, even as a former boss, he dies in one hit from the mighty Cleave Sulish here. It still sounds so weird to say it like that. That's not remotely how it looks like it be pronounced, but as somebody with Irish and Scottish heritage, the Gaelic language is very odd when compared to something like English. The pronunciation of different things is very different than what you might expect. Regrettably, I don't speak any other languages. I certainly would like to. And I know that sounds really pretentious, especially considering a lot of other countries regularly teach their students more than one language. For example, my parents actually have hosted a couple of foreign exchange students. They previously hosted a kid from Germany, and they're currently hosting a kid from Russia. And here's the crazy thing. This kid, he's maybe 16, I think. And he's from a pretty well-to-do family from Russia, but he speaks 4 languages. And he's 16 years old. Like, that's... How come... I don't know. It's not that I couldn't have aspired to do something like that when I was that age, but it's not something I ever felt was a priority, mostly because I was dealing with, school. And even though they teach foreign languages in school in America, it's nowhere near as thorough and developed as the level of foreign language education in for example, in Europe, where someone from Germany who is 13, 14, 15 years old can fluently speak both their native language and English. And English, from what I understand, is not a particularly easy language to learn for most foreigners, only because, I guess for Germany it'd be different, because English is a Germanic language, or English is a Germanic language rather. But at any rate, it's not something that if you're accustomed to speaking your entire life, picking up another language cannot be easy. Speaking from personal experience, from what little I have taken of foreign languages, it is not easy to retain that kind of information. And it gives me a lot more respect for people who do things like translating as a career, and do so in real time even. So, for example, people who can listen to one person speak in one language and then immediately convey in another language what they just said. And that kind of ability is mystifying to me, and I have a great deal of respect for people who can do that. It's something that I wish I had the capability of. I'm sure if I spent the requisite amount of time learning and practicing and doing that kind of thing, I could do it, but the amount of time and effort that goes into learning another language and speaking it fluently, not just learning the language, but like learning the dialects and the methods of speaking, and making sure you don't sound like you have a very thick accent. Like, imagine how difficult it must be for someone living in a Far Eastern country like India or China or Japan to, I'm sure a lot of them can speak English adequately well, but because they come from languages or from countries that have very different methods of speaking with very different dialects, that's why so many of them have such thick accents, because it's not what they're used to. For example, something that I actually didn't know until recently, the letter U is used quite a bit phonetically in Japanese language, but you don't hear it very often. And what I mean by that is, like a common word used in Japanese, like desu, for example, like D-E-S-U. That's not actually obviously how they spell it, because their alphabet's totally different, but when you hear one of them pronounce that, you don't hear the U, or it's very muted and it's very different, but it's still part of how the word is spelled and used in a I guess Romanized fashion. And that kind of stuff is very intriguing to me, but it explains a lot why you hear that kind of stuff when they try to speak English. And even though you can understand it, it sounds weird because they're saying it like why are they saying it like that? It's because that's how they say it. That's how that type of thing is pronounced in their language. It's hard to shake that. So people who are capable of speaking more than one language and using the proper dialect and the proper like vocal inflections in their voice when they speak the language, rather than just trying to fake it or trying to sound too much like a different language, that is the truly impressive thing. For example, someone who natively speaks Japanese but can break into French and hit it perfectly and not sound like they're from another country. And I've heard people do that, and it's absolutely mystifying to me. And I have a lot of respect for people who can do that. I don't know how I got into this tangent about languages, but I guess, again, it's something that I would love to learn how to do. In fact, my mother is currently learning another language right now. She's learning German. And it's very... Hey, there we go. Quickly skull, finally. So I can get out of here now. It's very interesting to hear someone practice another language, too, and rather than just speak it. Because when you're hearing someone who is already fluent in another language speak it, you're like, oh, that's cool. It's like, of course they know how to speak. They've practiced their whole life. But when you're listening to someone who doesn't know another language and is learning a new one, and listening to them pick it up bit by bit and develop their skill in the language one sentence at a time, that's arguably just as cool to me. And I'm sure that sounds really boring to some of you, but I think language is one of those things that's underappreciated, and it's one of those things also that I don't understand how who in the world, like, how did we first, as human society from different cultures and different countries, how did we first learn to understand one another when we had a language barrier? That's one of the things that I'm very, I guess, confused about. I don't know how we first learned to find common ground in language and understand one another, but I'm sure there's some sort of history to that I am not privy to or hasn't been brought to my attention. I'm starting to wonder if I should just put the petrification immunity on right now, because it's going to drive me bonkers. I know I've mentioned a few times that I'm not a fan of the clock tower, and I'm still not. But at any rate, bomber armor is another one of these ones that I don't have yet. I did say I'd go to the floating gardens next, didn't I? Well, you know what? The clock tower was conveniently placed within access of a teleporter room. Now that I'm thinking about it, though, there really isn't anything I need in the clock tower. I've already got Medusa Head, I've got Lightning Doll, a lot of killer dolls in here. I've got the Harpy already, I've got the Gremlin. I don't have bomber armor yet, but they're in other places. So why don't we go to somewhere else? Where does the floating gardens... You know what? I'm going to go to the floating gardens by means of the clock tower. How about that? So we'll trudge through and grab whatever we're missing, although I don't think it's very much. There shouldn't be anything in the way of equipment that I'm missing from here. This entire area is largely accessible by the time you reach it. I guess it's a lot easier to navigate now that I have some more, some better vertical abilities, vertical transversal abilities here. Like the Hippogriff Soul, for example, and the fact that I can turn into a bat and fly around a bunch. The Devil's right here, if I'm not mistaken, either, and I don't have that one yet. The Devil's Soul, I mean. Not the Devil, that'd be terrifying. Well, let's get these needles out of the way. Let's see if I can get Devil to drop his soul real quick. He's right here. Nope, maybe not. That's alright. We'll have more chances. We'll put Gremlin back on, because why not? Zap that guy. Bomber armor was the other direction, if I'm not mistaken, but again, we're just going to the floating gardens by means of the clock tower. We don't have Golem yet, I know that for a fact. He's in other places in the floating gardens, but this one's more easily accessible, so why don't we grind on him for a little bit here. Maybe I'll get lucky and he'll drop his soul pretty quick here. Thankfully he dies rather quickly. He's not vulnerable to electricity, huh? I guess he's made of, like, stone as opposed to metal. So I guess that makes sense. If I had a killer mantle soul, that'd be nice. Because then that works on all the golems, actually. Including the flesh golem. I think we've seen the flesh golem. That one's a really fun one. As far as his oh, look at that. Here we go. Golem Street. Plus 12 strength. I'll just use the hippogriff to get up to the top here. Oh, there's spikes. I forgot about that. There we go. Just jump right up here. So much easier, isn't it? And there's not even those pesky, annoying, what do you call them? Medusa heads. No Medusa heads in my way. Alright, well here's the floating gardens again. There's quite a few things I don't have around this area, so we're going to spend some time here for a little while grabbing some more stuff. So that being said, we'll do more of that next episode. Until that time, I really appreciate you guys watching. It really is interesting to listen to myself talk about all this kind of stuff for a while. Hope it's interesting to you guys as well. But until next episode, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate all of you. This has been Seraphin. Stay classy, internets.